don't pay us to think. They pay us to know. We know we can beat them. There's no excuses why we shouldn't. Win the game, period. W is on 3, man. Let's go. W on 3. 1, 2, 3, W.
Welcome, all my fellow Redskin brethren and sistren. I am your man and resident Redskins fan, Luke. Thank you for joining me here on the Redskins Report. Time to give you an overview and my thoughts on the 2019 NFL Draft for the Washington Redskins, our beloved Washington Redskins. I'm almost speechless, and if you've been watching me for any amount of time, you know that I've always got something to say, and this was one of the most surprising outcomes in terms of, in a positive manner, with regards to the Washington Redskins I can remember in recent memory. I may be overreacting a little bit, and you guys can speak to how surprising this draft was to you. Maybe you expected the Redskins to go out and kill it. Because again, we're just going off of paper and what we've seen with these prospects and how we feel about these particular players that they drafted, how they drafted for needs but didn't reach, how they were able to get players at great spots, how they were able. And this draft reminds me somewhat of a draft that we had last year, or at least a couple of picks do, in situations where we were clamoring for a specific player and we didn't get him at the point where we thought we should have gotten him, and then the Redskins double back and get him 3 rounds later. We did it again this year. We did it again. All in all, I feel like this is the best Redskins draft since probably 1999, 2000, somewhere in there. The Champ Bailey, I think it was Champ Bailey, and we got, I want to say Champ Bailey and LeVar Arrington were in the same draft. If it wasn't Champ Bailey and LeVar Arrington, it was Champ Bailey and Chris Samuels. One or the other. It was one of those drafts that changed the direction of the franchise in that short period of time. Obviously, we know how the Champ Bailey situation turned out. Joe Gibbs came in. Champ Bailey ended up wanting out, and they traded for Clinton Portis. Rest is history. But that Ricky Williams trade that set the Redskins up with 2 first-round picks in the top 10, top 7, really. I think the Redskins ended up having the first or second pick overall and then the 7th pick in the draft that year. Or they traded back up, as a matter of fact, to package up picks to go get Champ Bailey. Whatever the case may be, I think this is the best draft since that particular draft. But again, I don't want to start talking crazy. These players have to perform on the football field. We could be excited and elated about this draft now, and 3 years from now, this draft could look like the 2012 draft, in which we don't have a single player left on the roster from the 2012 NFL draft. So I'm excited about this draft, as I think many of you are, and I want to give you my thoughts on this draft and a quick overview now. Keep in mind, this is not the Redskins draft wrap-up for the entire draft. That's going to come Tuesday. I'm going to give you the bells and whistles, and I think I'm going to do that live. I'll let you guys talk about it in the comment section. I'll see what you want to do. I'm going to pose this question to you right now. Leave your comment in the comment section. Should I do the draft wrap-up of the Redskins 2019 NFL Draft? Should I do that live, or should I do that locally and just upload it? I think I know the answer already, but I'm going to pose that question to you guys. Should I do that live, or should I do it locally and load it up, upload that video? Anyway, I know you guys heard the news that the reports, let me not say news, the reports that if, in fact, Daniel Jones had been available, the Redskins would have selected him at 15, which is exactly why. And the Denver Broncos also were in that discussion, and the report said that if he were available at 10, the Broncos would not have traded back with the Steelers and instead would have taken Daniel Jones. Maybe they would have still taken the deal from Pittsburgh, moved back, and had he been available at 20, they would have taken him. But he wasn't getting past the Giants at 17, and now we know he wouldn't have gotten past the Redskins at 15. So bottom line is, I'm glad he wasn't on the board. And we said that going into the draft. I said it numerous times. I said it during the draft party. Take his ass off the board at 6, please, New York. They did us a huge solid. And so now we have come away with Dwayne Haskins. So let's take a look at the Redskins 10-player draft haul in 2019, and I'll give you a quick overview of what we were able to acquire. So let's look at these players quickly, and like I said, I'll just go over this as fast. I've already watched film on all of the players that we selected. I'm going to give you Redskin players of past comps for each of the new players that we've drafted. So make sure, and again, the ones that I've already done videos on, I won't give you a new comp. I've already given you a comp for those players. But the ones that we haven't talked about in a video separate from the one we'll do on Tuesday, I'll give you a comp that goes with a player of Redskins past. So with that being said, obviously we talked about the first 3 picks in the draft that we were able to acquire in Dwayne Haskins, Montez Sweat, and Terry McLaurin. I wasn't a huge fan of the McLaurin pick initially, went back, watched film, and walked away more impressed than I thought I was going to be and feel way better about that pick. The Haskins pick, I would have preferred Drew Lock. I said that already, but I think Haskins has the potential to be a big-time NFL quarterback. So the upside there has me very excited and intrigued with Dwayne Haskins. And he's got a chip on his shoulder now. Don't know what that really means, but at this point, I'll take a player with a chip on his shoulder than one without a chip on his shoulder. So hopefully that also bodes well for us moving forward. Montez Sweat fell into our lap. The Redskins were aggressive in nature and coming up to get him, but he shouldn't have been there at 26. If there is nothing wrong with him from a physical standpoint, and it seems like he was misdiagnosed with the heart condition. And also, you heard about some of the stories that teams, interviewed him at the combine, and they weren't really pleased with some of the answers with his psych evaluation, and talking to some coaches from Mississippi State that, hey, this is a guy that you can't coach that hard. He's one of those guys that's a little sensitive. He shuts down. He doesn't respond well to being yelled at, that kind of thing. Look, I told you, I don't know about all of that. I don't care about any of that. I know that this guy's uber talented, and he gives us something we've lacked in Washington for way too long, and that's a fear-inducing, havoc-wreaking pass rusher off the edge with pure, unadulterated speed. I also told you we were going to add speed. Speaking of which, we added Terry McLaurin, a guy that ran a sub 4.4, 4.35 combine speed. This is a guy that can flat out run. He brings a lot to the table. Love the selection of McLaurin now that I have seen the true value in a Terry McLaurin. Not to mention the guy is an outstanding special teams player as well. 4th round, I think this one threw a lot of you for a loop. It didn't throw me for a loop because this was best player available. And again, I don't have a problem with that. And I know a lot of you ask a lot of questions to yourself as to, what does this mean for fill in the blank? And I know a lot of you saw on Twitter, Darius Geis kind of tweet out an emoji saying, like, what the hell, essentially. Like, he didn't know what to say. The emoji didn't have a mouth, but he was just kind of looking around. And this doesn't mean anything for a guy like Darius Geis. This doesn't mean anything for a guy like Adrian Peterson. This is more of an indictment on Chris Thompson than anything else. And to be honest, Chris Thompson isn't going anywhere, at least not in 2019. Maybe after the 2019 season, if we have another injury-riddled season with Chris Thompson and they're not happy with the production that they get from him, then I think you see a guy like Bryce Love come into the picture as a guy that potentially could take Chris Thompson's place. Again, there's space on the roster for all 4 of these running backs. There's enough touches to go around. But again, in 2019, you may not see Bryce Love at all. Remember, he's coming off of an ACL injury that he sustained in the final game of his collegiate career, which was the final game of Stanford's regular season. So you're talking about a game in which he sustained an ACL tear in December. So keep in mind, late November, December, somewhere in that time frame, he tore his ACL. He may not play in 2019, depending on how he heals. I'm hearing he's ahead of schedule. If that is in fact the case, then he may be on the PUP list to start, and he may be ready to go by, let's say, week number 7, 8, 9, somewhere in that general vicinity. Maybe he comes back then and you work him in slowly. Maybe the Redskins are at a point in the season where you don't want to bring him back at that point. It doesn't make any sense, and you just put him on ice and you don't see him until 2020. There are a number of different possibilities as to how this could go. Either way, Bryce Love is a first-round pick in last year's draft. I talked about this on my podcast, Louie T Network Podcast. For those of you who haven't already checked it out, what are you waiting on? Check out the Louie T Network Podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, available on Stitcher, Google Music Play, TuneIn, Spotify, and, of course, the website, louietnetwork.net. But I talked about Bryce Love and how he should have come out last year. He would have been a locked first-round pick last season. He came back to school, and again, I don't like to tell guys what they should or shouldn't do in terms of coming out or not coming out. He had his reasons as to why he went back to school. It did not benefit him, however, as he not only got injured, but he didn't have the kind of season that he had in 2017, where he was a Heisman Trophy candidate and a guy that lit up college football. He had every opportunity to be a first-round pick, and he came out early, but that's our gain because we get him in the 4th round now as a guy that, coming off of an injury, I think is going to just light it up at the next level. He can catch it. He can run. He's got great vision. He's the first-round back that we got in the 4th round. Just know that. So this is tremendous value for those of you who don't know about Bryce Love. As we go to the next 4th-round pick, another one that I think some of you were caught off guard by. Not necessarily caught off guard. Get it? Off guard? All right, I stopped. But you didn't know who Wes Martin was, guard out of Indiana. I didn't know who Wes Martin was, okay? Bottom line is, I knew it was more depth. All I'm looking for is a bunch of darts at this point. You're in the 4th round, so at this point, you're looking for darts to throw at the board, at the guard and center positions. You want as many viable candidates to lock those 2 positions up. And I put 2 positions in there because center isn't locked up. I think that's a position that could be up for grabs, and left guard is definitely vacated right now. So we'll see what the Redskins decide to do. But I love the whole 3 for 2 position battle. I love the fact that we've got 3 players for 2 positions. We're going to find the 5 best guys that fit. We have 3 positions right now that are currently locked down. Left tackle with Trent Williams, right guard with Brandon Sheriff, right tackle with Morgan Moses. I think the other 2 positions at left guard and center are up for grabs, and I think the Redskins are going to do their due diligence. They're going to figure out which 2 offensive linemen give them the best chance to win and have the best stability up front. And you could see Ross Pierce-Baker play guard, which he did at Alabama but didn't do it in 2018, played center, but has more starts at guard than he does center. You can see him playing at guard. You can see him go inside the center. You could see a number of different outcomes. Our ex-center out of Wyoming, Chase Rouillet, you can see him playing guard. Pierce Baker going to center. You could see Wes Martin going to guard and Chase Rouillet playing center. There's a number of different combinations. I just love the fact that we have that kind of flexibility now. And that's what you're going to get with the next 2 selections in Wes Martin out of Indiana and Ross Pierce-Baker out of Alabama. So that's what the Redskins, I told you on my 5 things the Redskins are going to do. And if I'm not mistaken, 4 out of the 5 things came to fruition. I think the one thing that didn't happen was that the Redskins didn't take a guard in the 3rd round, and that's because they traded out of the 3rd round. But the Redskins doubled down, and I said in the video they're going to double down on the interior offensive line, guard, whatever you want to call it. They did that. The next 2 picks in Martin and Ross Pierce-Baker both are interior offensive linemen, and I thought they would do that. And if you remember my 7th-round mock, I gave us a linebacker in there, and that's what the Redskins took in the 5th round with their second 5th-round pick, linebacker Cole Holcomb out of North Carolina. Here's a guy that just, again, I talked about Redskins wanting to add speed, and I talked about that on my 5 things that I guaranteed to happen in the 2019 NFL Draft, and I also talked about that during the entire draft process. They're going to add team speed. Jay Gruden has talked about it all offseason. We need to get faster, especially on offense, and they did it on defense as well, though. And so Cole Holcomb is the guy that I watched, and I'll tell you this much. He's got his flaws. Obviously, that's why he's a 5th-round pick. But this guy can run. I'll leave it at that. We'll break him down, and I'll talk about what this guy brings to the table. But just know you're dealing with a sub-4.5 40 guy here in Cole Holcomb out of North Carolina, and he's a tackling machine as well. So, like that pickup for the Redskins, similar to the one like Troy last year with Troy Apke, another guy that can just flat out run. You want as many of those guys as you can get on your football team. This was the pick that I think most of us felt so good about day 3. We didn't expect it. And I talked about this at the top of the show, how this pick reminded me a lot of the selection last year of a defensive tackle that we were all hoping the Redskins took in the 3rd round. If you remember, last year, we kept telling the Redskins, what are you waiting for? Pull the trigger on the defensive tackle out of Virginia Tech. Pull the trigger, pull the trigger, pull the trigger. They didn't do it. And we were upset. We're like, this guy is just sitting here. Why aren't you taking him? And he fell into our lap in the 6th round, I believe it was, and the Redskins took him. And it was amazing because you didn't expect that to take place, but it did. And I think that's exactly how this year's 6th round selection of wide receiver Kelvin Harmon out of North Carolina State took place. You kept clamoring for him. I know I sat here on day 2 with all the Redskins fans and some of the other fans of other teams that were at my draft party. And we sat here and we talked about how the Redskins needed to take a big-time wide receiver. Hakeem Butler and Kelvin Harmon were on the board at the time. And the Redskins, I thought, needed to take one of the two because they have the potential to be a number 1 wide receiver in this league. And that's what the Redskins truly need, a difference maker out wide. And I wasn't sure that they were going to get one after they passed on that opportunity with the 3rd round selection of Terry McLaurin. And maybe McLaurin turns out to be a stud. And he's the guy that fills that void. And we're overlooking him. I can't say we. I may be overlooking him in that regard. I still think he's going to be more of a slot at the next level. But I think he can play out wide. He played out wide at Ohio State, and he did a damn good job of it. And the thing I love about all of the players that we got in this draft is that all of them can move around, especially the wide receivers. They can play a multitude of positions. That's what you want out of your receivers. You don't want just an X, just a guy that's going to be on the left side of the field and the defense can plan for him to be in one spot. You want guys that have diversity, that can play the X, that can play the Z, that can go in motion, that can go out tight, go in tight to the line, that can go all the way out wide, that can play in a bunch, can be at the front of the bunch, can be in the back closest to the inside tight end in the bunch formation. You want guys that can line up everywhere. That makes your offense that much harder to stop. And so the fact that we were able to get our hands on Tim Settle last year and this year get our hands on Kelvin Harmon in the same manner and fashion was outstanding. Bottom line, though, is Kelvin Harmon doesn't come without faults. I've talked about that during the draft wrap-up series, the draft prospects 101 series. I've given you visual proof as to some of the things he does well and some of the things he doesn't do well. No, he's not a burner. He's not going to outrun anyone, but the guy's tough as nails. Love what he brings to the table. Love the fact that we were able to get this guy in the 6th round. I'm still somewhat floored at the fact that he was available at this point of the draft. I think the Redskins were, and I listened to Jay Gruden, he said as much. They couldn't believe he was sitting there in the 6th round, and it was a no-brainer. And maybe the pick was going to be a tight end initially, because I think that's the one thing, if I had one complaint in this draft, is that we didn't come away with a tight end. And I know I read one of the comments of the McLaurin video from the 3rd round, where one of the comments, and it was a very intelligent comment, said, why do you keep trying to get rid of Vernon Davis? He's making some money. I know we can save a couple of bucks, but Vernon isn't that bad. And he's right. But Vernon isn't a blocking tight end. We need a blocking tight end. So I think they're going to stick with Jeremy Sprinkle. Matt Flanagan came on at the end of the season. Maybe he's the guy that can provide us with some more blocking. You just want more diversity. Again, I just talked about diversity and not having tells. And you don't want to have a guy like Sprinkle, like Flanagan, who, when on the field, it's going to be a run 85% of the time. You want a guy that you can't tell if it's run or pass. If Jordan or Vernon are on the field, 90% of the time, You're going to think pass because those guys aren't good run blockers. And if you're asking them to run, you're going to affect the run game. I don't care how good of a front you have. I don't care how good the 5 guys blocking along the offensive line are blocking. If you're going to bring those tight ends into the fold in the run game and they're not doing their job, all it takes is for one guy to get his ass whooped in the run game for a play to be blown up. And our tight ends generally get their ass whooped in the run game and plays get blown up. So I thought we were going to take a tight end at some point in this draft, and we didn't. And I think maybe that was going to be the pick here. And when they saw Kelvin Harmon still on the board, they were floored and said, there's no way we can pass up on this kind of value in the 6th round. And so I thought we got ourselves an absolute steal in the 6th round with Kelvin Harmon. Then you go to the 7th round, and normally these are throwaway picks. You just take a flyer on a couple of guys if you got a couple of 7th rounders, as the Redskins did, and you keep it moving. I'm actually super intrigued by these picks, okay? This isn't like once upon a time when the Redskins drafted the Indiana tight end in the 7th round, and you're like, okay, yeah, he's trash. He's not going to make the roster. This is different. This feels different. This feels like when the Redskins drafted the cornerback out of Auburn a few years ago that I'm still high on. I still want to see him get an opportunity to play. He just can't stay healthy, but I really liked him in the 7th round. I said, maybe we might have something here. I feel the same way with cornerback Jimmy Moreland out of James Madison. This guy right here, I'm going to tell you right now, yes, he's undersized. Yes, he's a guy that in today's NFL, you would automatically put him in the slot because of his size. I'm not going to make any kind of declarations as to where this guy must play. We definitely need a slot corner, and he will fit that bill, but he didn't play slot in college. And slot is a different animal. It's not like receiver where you can say, hey, we'll just kick a guy inside the slot. You got to be a different type of specimen. You've got to be a different kind of guy mentally to play in the slot. It's a different animal inside, and I don't know if Moreland can do that or not. I can tell you this much. This guy's a football player. Yeah. Jimmy Moreland looks the part of a dude that could easily be a steal in this draft and be a baller for us down the road. Again, I'll break him down on Tuesday, but just know this. I'm impressed with him and the final pick in this draft for the Redskins, Jordan Brailford. Look, we went so long without speed off the edge, and in one draft, we get 2 guys that can flat out fly off the edge. This guy ran a 4.65 at the combine. That's flying, folks, for a guy that's 253 pounds coming off the edge. This guy's a quick twitch. I think he had a 39.5-inch vert. He's explosive, and you see it. All right, when I watch him on tape, he's explosive off the edge. Now, there's not much more to him other than that, but we'll talk about all of that stuff. Just know that he's got a great shot at making this roster as well, okay? There's something here with these 7th rounders, and it makes me excited because all 10 of these picks could easily be Washington Redskins come next September when the season starts. All 10 of these guys could be on the roster. And I can tell you this much, there aren't any guys that should stop these guys from having a shot at making the roster. It's not like we're one of these NFL franchises where we've got 48 spots on our roster spoken for with players that have already established themselves in this league. And so you only got 5 roster spots, and 5 of these guys are going to be out back. This is a roster right now that we sit here with as Redskins fans, and we look at it and say, it's wide open for business. And if these guys come in and compete their asses off, they have a legitimate shot of cracking this Redskins 53-man roster when it's all said and done. I'm excited about all 10 of these selections. I think all 10 of them have a legitimate shot at making the roster, and all 10 of them have a specific niche and role they can carve out for themselves on this team in 2019 and beyond. So I don't know how you guys feel about this draft haul. I think I know how you feel. You're probably as excited and stoked as I am, but this is a hell of a job. And I know I read another comment in one of the videos that said, and I think I made mention of this on the last video, but I know one of the Redskins fans in the comment section said, hey, man, why do you keep giving all the credit to Bruce Allen? And we heard Jay Gruden give a lot of credit to Kyle Smith and the rest of the scouts for setting the board. I'm starting to believe, because there's no way Bruce Allen has done this. Bruce Allen has been in control of drafts in the past, and they look nothing like this. This draft was too competent to be the work of Bruce Allen. I can't give him credit for this because he has a body of work that says he's not capable of doing something like this on his own. I've got to believe Kyle Smith had a lot to do with the crafting of this draft board, and the Redskins stuck to it steadfast, had some breaks, okay? There was no way we were supposed to come away with Montez Sweat in the first round at 26, trading back up. There was no way we were supposed to come away with Kelvin Harmon in the 6th round as a receiver that I thought should have been gone no worse than in the 4th round. There's no way the Redskins should have come away with the value that they came away with in this draft. Bryce Love in the 4th round. They had some help, and I think for the first time in a long time, they took the advice of a shrewd, skilled, very skilled evaluator. Our draft evaluator of player personnel, Kyle Smith, is a rising star in this league. I've heard that multiple times. And at some point, they're going to have to promote him to GM, or someone else is going to pluck him away from us. Like we've seen guys in the past leave here and become stars. Like a la John Schneider, who's the GM in Seattle. He was once a Washington Redskin in the front office. We've seen guys get plucked from Washington, go elsewhere, and become stars. We can't allow that to happen again. If Kyle Smith is capable of drafts like this, and again, we don't know how good this draft is going to turn out, but just looking at it on the surface, if he's capable of pulling off a 10-player draft haul like this with the potential talent that is here, this is a guy that you can't let leave the building. And so this is a job well done. I salute to the Washington Redskins for what seems to be a magnificent 10-player haul. For the first time in a long time, I can honestly say I'm proud of the Redskins organization for what they were able to do on 3 days in April. Because generally, they don't do a great job at this. We hope and we wish that they take this player or take that player. But generally, we come out saying, well, let's hope that Ted Bolser is good in the 7th round. That's the Indiana tight end I was talking about, Ted Bolser. His name just came to me. Like, we're hoping that these guys generate something for us. All right? We're not doing that this year. You know, I feel like we got legitimate stuff that can help us. We're not praying that Keith Marshall in the 7th round out of Georgia. All right? Or what's the Baylor running back name? The fast running back that we were hoping just gave us something. We're not hoping for that this year. We got legitimate football players that we feel like can come in and contribute. I'm really excited about this draft haul. What about you? Leave it in the comment section. One, do you want me to go live with the Redskins 2019 NFL draft wrap-up series breakdown of all 10 of the selections live, or do you want me to just upload it? I think I know the answer already, but I'm going to ask you anyway. And then I want your true feelings about how you feel about this draft overall. I saw one of my guys on Twitter. As a matter of fact, I'm going to pull up his tweet right now, and I'm going to read it to you. My man, Matt Lynch, who we talk all the time on Twitter, a fellow Redskin fan. He sent me a tweet asking me about the draft, and this was his grades on the draft. He gives the Haskins pick a B+, the Montez Sweat pick a A+, Terry McLaurin pick at A-, the West the pick of guard Wes Martin, he gave that a C+, Bryce Love an A-, Ross Pierce Baker an A, Cole Holcomb a B, Kelvin Harmon an A+, Jimmy Moreland an A, and Brailford a B+, overall grade A-. I don't necessarily disagree with anything that he said. I wouldn't give Wes Martin a C, though. I'd give him probably more of a B+. I think he can come in and help, but I don't disagree with anything that he said here. Every one of those grades sounds like a winner to me, and the overall grade of this draft is probably, instead of it being an A- because of that C+ for Wes, I think I'd end up with just an A. Not an A-, just an A. It was a fantastic draft by the Washington Redskins organization. I don't know the last time I've been able to say that, to be honest with you. I'm being brutally honest. I think the last time I felt this good about a draft probably was like 2000. 1999, 2000, 2001, somewhere in that general vicinity was the last time I felt this good about a draft. When we robbed the Saints blind and the next year we're able to capitalize off of it. And I think that was the 2000 draft where we were able to get Chris Samuels. If I'm not mistaken, we got Samuels and Champ Bailey in the same draft. That's the last time I felt this good about a draft. I can't speak for you guys. 2012, I was excited about Robert Griffin III, but I knew that we gave up future first-round picks, so I couldn't be but so excited about that draft. We gave up nothing but a second-rounder in this draft, and we came away with what could be a franchise-altering. Okay, that's how good this draft potentially could be. A franchise-altering draft in 2019. I feel damn good about it. I am a Redskins fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Redskins spirit will never die. Redskins spirit will never fold until we meet again. Hail to our beloved Washington Redskins. Leave the comments in the comment section. Can't wait to read how you feel about the 2019 NFL draft of the Washington Redskins. Feels good to know that for once, seems like we might have done some shit right. And it's not often that I can say that with this organization, but man, it feels good to be a Redskins fan right now. And this actually gives me some rekindled hope for the 2019 season. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.